I'll talk a little bit about a paleo diet. Not that I'm a specialist in paleo diet. It's something I ran into quite some time ago already, but I'd like to put it in a bigger perspective. Paleo diet basically is thinking that our genetics changed much slower than was previously thought, and much of our digestive system and our body is still tuned to what the conditions humanity lived in for 95% of its existence. We lived as hunter-gatherers, probably in groups of 150 people, around maximum 150 people, and we lived off like nuts and berries and fruit and hunting. That was basically the source of food before there was agriculture, and we went into more grains, eating grains like rice and wheat. It was all domesticated about 10,000 years ago, I think, and like some of this history can still be found back in our neocortex, for example, can handle about 150 people, knowing them quite well, but not is not built for this enormous cities we have, for example. And beyond this range, we do not have empathy, for example, for people that die very far away. You cannot connect to that. There's quite a bit of evidence for that, that our scope is about 150 people, and probably that comes from this past. And it's not even that far away, because I think up to a few hundred years ago, most of the planet was living as hunter-gatherers still, and not in agricultural settings. The idea with this, behind this food, is that if we eat berries or fruits, then we eat stuff that basically likes to be eaten. It's a win-win situation, because the plant is immobile and it wants to put its seed somewhere else, and the mammal is mobile, so the mammal can eat the berry or the fruit and deposit it with some manure further down the road, and that is very favorable for the plant, and it's all and that's why the plant makes its fruit tree makes its fruit very delicious for human beings, or for mammals to eat them, so they can deposit them somewhere. A very old relationship, and therefore it's very healthy. Now, nuts are basically the embryos of the nut trees, so they don't like you to eat it like a walnut. Then they destroy the seed, but the walnut has a hard shell around it for protection. So inside the walnut there is not a chemical defense against predators or consumers, because there's already supposedly a good defense, according to the walnut tree, by the hard shell. And so nuts are safe to eat. And animals that are mobile, they can run away, so they also, or they can swim away, they also think they are kind of safe, and they don't have a built-in chemical defense against being eaten. And that there are a lot of these defenses is also clear. For example, that what you see, if giraffes eat plants, leaves of plants, and they keep moving about, because if they stay on one tree too long, then these trees communicate somehow to each other that there's someone eating the leaves, and then the other trees can make their leaves poisonous, so they have to keep on moving. There are a lot of defenses, necessarily so, of course, otherwise these plants and these animals would no longer exist. So what happened this 10,000 years ago when we went to agriculture? First, the quality of life went down a lot, and almost all people that know something about this history agree on that, that it was the human body was adapted to a certain diet, and then suddenly, although the quantity of life increased a lot, the quality of life took a hit. You can see that on the teeth. People had much more diseases, and they were shorter, and there was a lot of problems with the change of that diet to agriculture. And the way that worked is you eat the embryo of a grain plant, right? And it does not want to be eaten, and not that it had specific defenses against humans, but it had defenses against insects, because that relationship was a lot older, and insects would of course also like to eat this embryo because it is rich in nutrient, but the grain plant wouldn't exist if it just let that happen, right? So it has a chemical defense built in, and the defense it has built in is a little bit of soap to kill the bacteria that help with the digestion, and a little bit of poison that triggers an immune reaction, and so the soap also dissolves the canal, the digestive canal in the insect, and then poison can get in there and kill the insect basically. So then we humans came along and started eating that stuff, and yeah, you can already see that you have to bake it and process it and do all kind of stuff with it, but it is still kind of a bad thing for you according to this paleo diet, at least. And it's better to stick to like the fruits and the vegetables and the nuts and meat and fish, and stay away from these grains. They're very dangerous. Which brings me also to beer. And beer, you can, for example, see that there is a foam on the top. That the foam is soap from the grain. Beer is made from the grain, and yeah, there you can see the whole mechanism working. And it's also interesting to me that beer is also a very aggressive kind of beverage, right? Often when people start fighting in a bar, it's not because they drink too much wine, but often beer is the cause. Beer and aggression are kind of linked in my estimate, but I could be wrong. But I think whiskey drinkers do not often. Yeah, whiskey is also grain, but yeah, it is much more highly processed than beer. But yeah, beer is a bit of a low class enjoyment, and yeah, you often see a lot of fighting going on. If you compare to marijuana, for example, you smoke the leaves of something, you don't get involved with the embryos of a plant, then yeah, you don't see marijuana fights breaking out, right? But beer is a very aggressive thing, and I think that is kind of the revenge of the plants, right? So the plants, or not the plants, but specifically the grains. They say, okay, you eat my embryo, well, I'm gonna alert your immune system, because the immune system feels that it's being attacked, and the immune system of the body then goes on hyperactive and alert and being attacked. So and through projection, and you see everyone is attacking me, and I have to fight, and then you get this whole war thing going basically. And I think it's interesting to note also that many of these big dictators and really evil people and serial killers and were vegetarians, right? You can look that up. And Hitler was, for example, a vegetarian. And I recently read, by the way, that Hitler had trouble with farting. So yeah, maybe that was his digestive system already fighting off this or having trouble with his diet. And yeah, maybe all this aggression comes from a highly activated immune system that works on you eating the embryo, the chemically booby-trapped embryo of grain plants. And so it's a kind of a revenge. And that also brings me into something else, is that how can a small organism win from a very powerful organism? Well, you can see that how, for example, a bee does that in nature. A bee stings you and puts only in a little bit of poison, but what happens is what hits you is that your own immune response, right? That goes berserk and like, oh man, we're being hit, attack. And that is a weakness of something very strong, right? That it often has very strong defenses, and is these defenses can kill itself. And that is also the principle, I think, behind terrorism. Terrorism is basically kind of a revenge of the grain plant, grain embryo. Is that okay? You kill our young. Well, when we sting you like a bee, basically, and the attack is only minor, doesn't mean much, but if it has enough of a fear response, then it will trigger the whole society's immune system. And I already made an earlier video about society as a big organism, and in this case there is already a thing like the state in there, which is already very suboptimal as a defense mechanism, because it is forced upon you, so it is not the best product for your security you can get. And what happens is, you see what happens in the West now, is that this terrorism countermeasures, this immune response is completely getting out of hand. This is a big inflammation. The costs are running up, and the debt is exploding, and the economies are imploding, and everyone is a TSA agent, or developing weapons, or scanners, or it's all security, or checking paperwork, or spying on each other with cameras, and building software to get a data silo of 2 billion by the NSA now in this Utah mountain to check everything, and to control everyone, and to log all their data and control the internet. There's the whole immune system has completely gone berserk and is now killing the organism. It's killing the host, basically. It's going into cardiac arrest. And that's all because of a little bee sting, right? So it's a very effective way of something very small to win of something very large, not by overpowering the whole large thing, because that's impossible, but by just using its own defenses against it. And that is, that's basically the grain plant knocking you off, and the Hitler vegetarian immune system alert response. Now, I don't know if I discussed everything I want to discuss, but I think most of it is in. And this is a bit of a run into a new video I intend to make about a book review, how society was most likely to have functioned in these hunter-gatherer situations. An interesting book called Sex at Dawn, an evolutionary quest into sexuality, but much more than sexuality, actually. And it's very interesting to know that there is something wrong also with relationships in current day society, right? There's some examples of everyone on antidepressants, all marriages breaking up, many single parent families, Viagra sales going through the roof, porn sales are raking in more money than all high-class art combined. There is something going wrong there, and this book, I think, gives a very good analysis, despite some things I might not agree with, but nothing that cannot be fixed, I think. And that will be my next video. So thank you very much.